Hello, Edwina Murphy-Droomer is my name, and I want to warmly welcome you to this interview in the series where I am interviewing phenomenal feminine entrepreneurs in order to gain their insights on taking back control of your freedom, your future, and your prosperity. I had to think my brain, I was having a momentary kind of brain fog with the three things, but that's what we're diving into. And today I am so delighted to introduce everybody to Christine Innes. Christine, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and just to share some wisdom with everybody.
Yeah, it's not many times that my audience hears me do an interview and there's two Aussie accents happening.
Yes,
So
I hear you. It's good. It's good.
Christine, for those in our audience that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you until this moment, what I would love is to start with your story on you've moved from the corporate space into the entrepreneurial space. And just if you can walk us through that journey, what you were thinking, and yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, well, it was all started about 6 years ago. I call it my not so gracious exit from the corporate world. And it wasn't planned. I was actually diagnosed with two life-changing illnesses. And that was sort of the start of the catalyst of everything else to unfold. And from that, I was also, realized that I was in a very toxic and unfixable marriage. And from there, even more things happened where I had to stop work, and with obviously no money coming in, I had to file for bankruptcy. Ended up sleeping on my parents' couch for a period of time. But that whole sort of experience has led to so many amazing things. And so even though it wasn't a planned exit, I believe that it was what needed to happen. And I'm a big believer that the universe sends us signs. And one of those signs was the fact that this is not what you're meant to do, Christine. So, hey, we're going to make you sick so you can't work anymore. And here you go. And you need to step out and do something else. So that's literally how it all started.
Yeah.
But it's unfolded into a beautiful story.
Yeah, I talk about getting taps from the universe. You get little messages along the way, but if you're not listening to those messages, then they just get louder and louder and louder, and that often is um, health blowing up, unfortunately.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And I hear it so many times with everybody. It's, there's something that happens, and, I didn't look after myself for such a long period of time. And, but yeah, they said, well, if you're not going to listen, we're going to give you this. So here we are.
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I know, like I want to honor the courage first and foremost, because it takes huge courage to make such a big leap and change. So, where did you start? Where did things all start to unfold?
Well, when I was diagnosed with two life-changing illnesses, it's sort of like I had to stop work. I at that point was so ill that I couldn't even walk 200 meters without being completely out of breath. I wasn't even able to put a sentence together. And having to stop work was really difficult because I had worked, since I was 14. So I was nearly about to turn 40. So, for pretty much more than half my life, I had been working. And what I had realized is that I was so attached to my corporate identity that I didn't know who I was without a job title. And I think that was one of the key things that made me realize that there is more than what your title is. It is about knowing who you are and actually finding out the real person that's underneath that, so
Yeah.
then I can actually live the life and go down my own pathway instead of following what everybody else had sort of prepared for me beforehand.
Yeah, I resonate with that story, but not from working in the corporate space, but as a mum. I found myself as a
Mm.
single mum with four kids, and sole care. And, I got to this point, I think it was 7 or 8 years down the track of being in such an intensive place with my kids. And I met a man and he said, "What do you do for fun?" And I was like, "That's a really interesting question. Go to the toilet by myself without being interrupted.
Exactly.
Have the popcorn in the movies without somebody else's hands in it. Read a book uninterrupted. Like such big things, but yeah, the idea of who am I outside of motherhood and what do I do for fun was big. So I hear you.
Yeah, and it's really, I feel that it's everyone has this sort of pivotal moment,
Mm,
and I see it so often now, but it's really whether or not you want to, I guess, take that ownership to actually say, well, that's okay. That pathway was great where it was, but it's not where I want to be
yep.
anymore, and to actually change it.
Mm,
So I think that's one of the other pivotal moments that people have, is to actually make that detour and to change the pathway.
yeah. Yeah. So you got to that point and it was like that that chapter was over. Who am I? And then so what was the first sort of step into building your entrepreneurial business?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that I feel like a lot of things have fallen into my lap, but I know that there's been a lot of hard work that's happened, personally, to really change who I was. And what happened was a lot of people were starting to notice a change within me. They had obviously noted all the things that I've actually gone through with leaving a marriage, obviously, filing for bankruptcy, being unwell. But when I started to change, that reflection was on the outside as well, on the inside. And people are like going, I want what you've got. Tell me how to do it. And that then started me going, okay, well, I've spent 20 odd years working in management. I know how to coach people. I get how to, prep people up, but also give them tools. So I went and studied some life coaching, and I started actually coaching women on how to be the best version of themselves. And that really was the first step, for me being into business for myself.
Yeah. Okay. So did it start with the TV show?
No, so I started with coaching, and then from the coaching side of it, I there was another rumble that started within me going, oh, hang on, there's something else that needs to happen. And I started sharing my personal story more on social media, and that was resonating with people around the world. And I was getting people messaging me going, this is what happened to me. I had to leave corporate. It was due to burnout, or, due to a divorce, or it was due to, conflict of interest at work, because, their values just weren't aligned. And I then started an interview series, which I realized then at that point that these stories needed to get out there. So from the coaching, from sharing my story, that's then when how the TV show first started.
Yeah, fantastic. So is that like a podcast format or is it in just short series? How do people consume it?
So we have a weekly show, and we have a YouTube channel where they can watch an interview just like this. But then we also have our podcast version. So if you like the audio, we have the podcast version, which is available on the major platforms such as Apple, Spotify, and Google.
Yeah, fantastic. And then you morphed into a magazine just very recently.
Yes, yes. So we're about to celebrate our first birthday for the Corporate Escapist magazine, and again, it's about bringing these stories to life so that people have a platform and be able to share it to really empower and inspire people all around the world, but also help give them some clarity of where they can actually go in their life. And a lot of it is that we get inspired by other people, so we forget the power of our own story. So now we've got this beautiful platform for people to share their story, to
Yeah,
really connect with their ideal audience as well.
yeah, fantastic. So you've done a huge amount in a short amount of time. It's quite amazing. I know one of my favorite tools to get me in, big steps in a short amount of time is vision work and vision boards. What roles that played for you?
A massive role. I had been very fortunate to work with an amazing spiritual coach, and just what she's been able to teach me to also harness my own, intuition as well, but actually having things out there so that you're projecting that energy, you're projecting what you want out of there. And the big thing too, which I love about vision boards, is that you can take those pictures off as something happens, but also too, it's okay for you to change your goals and, constantly revisit, because either your goals are going to get bigger or they might even just change direction. So for me, it's key. I revisit it every 6 months at least.
Yeah. So do you put all areas of your life on there, or do you just make a business one? How do you do it?
I have two. So I have one obviously for my personal life of sort of things that I've been wanting to manifest. And then I'll also have a business one as well. For me, I try to keep the life and business a little bit separate. It doesn't always happen, but I have very clear goals of what I want for the business, but also have clear goals of where I want for my life as well. So having the two separate is good for me, because then I can sort of focus my energy on the two separate ones without them merging together.
Yeah. Have you been daring enough to put travel on your vision board this time?
I have. The US is actually sitting there for me to go. I've been wanting to do a tour actually of the US, and I'm very fortunate to have clients in the US. So they're like going, well, when can you come and, come over? But Greece is actually on there as well. So, here's hoping in next year or the year after I can get there.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unknown at the moment, but
It is.
we can keep the dream alive. It'll happen.
Absolutely. We'll get there.
So if we can look back at I really just think that it's important to dive more fully into the idea of following your passion. I know that it's something that you talk a lot about, but I know from when I was, my background, my audience will know, was naturopathy and functional nutrition. I imagined that was going to be my forever story, but I just always felt like I was kind of pushing against a brick wall. It wasn't easy. I was consuming all this information. I'd done all the study. I had I was passionate, and I am passionate about the way that we eat and living as close to nature as possible, and all these things are my passions. But as far as building a business and making an income from it, it just always had that. The best way I can describe it is pushing against a brick wall. It just was so hard. And then when I moved into vision building and the coaching space and interviewing, it's so much easier. I'm not going to pretend like it's all roses, because it's not. But I found my purpose. I found my thing in doing that. So how do you coach people through that, kind of finding that thing?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is actually trying to remember things about yourself when you were a child. One of the key things that I say, what is the one thing that you were told you were too much of as a kid? So for myself, my mum used to say, Christine, you talk too much. You just talk way too much. You're loud. And now I sit back and I'm like going, well, I now have a TV show and a podcast, but that is sometimes when we're too much as a child, that is also our natural talent and something that we're passionate about. And, I always say that I might have been loud, but it's because I had something to say. I wanted to get my voice out there, and I needed to, amplify it to be able to get it heard. But I love stories. So it all started to make connections. So I always get people to think about, well, when you were as a child, what did you love doing, or what were you told you were too much of? And then we start from there. And a lot of the other things that we talk about is values. For me, core values are essential, and they are sort of your foundations of building your life. And if you can work out what your values are, you can then also find out what you're passionate about through that.
Yep.
And the other exercise that I take people through is creating your ideal day. And what it is, it's all about visualization. It's about you sinking into what your day would want to be if it was your dream day on repeat. So not
Yep.
like Groundhog Day. This is a day that you can't wait to get up to live over and over and over again, because it's the people that you're with, it's the environment that you're in, it's, what you're doing. And by doing that, that's when you can start to identify what you're passionate about. And sometimes it comes down to, I love working in nature. So maybe, your passion is to be a florist, or, you know what, I love working with kids. So maybe it's in childcare or being a teacher. So it's finding out what day it's going to light you up and that you just can't wait to start.
Yeah. Give us some more ideas around values. I think it's one of those words that we throw around, and it's, what are your values? But what does that actually mean? Give us some examples.
Yeah. So for me, like integrity is one of my values. So is authenticity. And for me, it's how I show up for myself. But it's also, for me, the values is that I want to actually be matched to people that have similar values to me. So I actually make life and business decisions based on my values. So I like to work with people that are aligned in the same values, because we have a mutual respect or a mutual trust because our values are aligned.
Yeah.
And we've got a free quiz over on the website. You can find out what your values are. But one of the key things is that if you could think of 3 things that you will stand for, and that you will be willing to shout from the rooftops to say, hey, I'm Christine, I love authenticity, I love integrity, and for me, I love family. Like, family is essential. And I live and breathe that, and I feel that's what values are. I know that everybody has their own different version of it, but for me, it's what you live and breathe every single day, and that you're willing to shout from the rooftop.
Yeah. I love Brene Brown is one of my all-time mentors. I tune into her quite regularly, but I think it's Dare to Lead, she's got a list of values in her book, which is, I find, really useful as well, just as a reset to think about this.
Yeah,
Very
and your
cool.
values can change as you change as a person too. It's not something that's going to be set in stone,
Yeah.
because we all have to remember that, as human beings, we grow and we develop as new experience happens in our life. So with that, your values are potentially going to change, and that is okay. But it's just what you really want to live and breathe by, because that's what makes you so
Yeah.
unique and beautiful.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, in your fairly quick journey with what you've created, I imagine that you've had to deal with a bit of who am I to do this? Those sort of conversations. Am I good enough? Do I know enough? Very, very typical conversations for all of us. How do you deal with that? How do you move through that when those voices are being a bit noisy?
First thing is I acknowledge, because if you don't acknowledge, well, for me, if I don't acknowledge, then there's no way that I can deal with it. The other thing that I learned is, I call it my inner mean girl voice. So I give that voice a name, and literally in the moment, if I know that it's not serving me the purpose, I will tell them to go.
Yep.
I will use more stronger language than that, but I would just say, off you go, see you later, I don't need you today. And yeah, if for me, it's about just saying, yep, I hear you, that's okay, but you're not going to serve me any purpose. And off you go.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to be consumed by that. The other way that I deal with it is, I call it having a pity party. You literally put a movie on and you have this pity party, because a movie has a start and an end. And from that, I will allow all the bad talk to come out. I will cry, laugh, whatever I need to do. But at the end of it, I have those things in place that I've been taught, what I've learnt, what works for me to get myself out of that place, so that it's only for a short period of time. That's it.
Yep.
Done and dusted.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So I love asking the speakers, what does a rich life look like to you? Because it looks like something different to everybody. We all have a different idea of that perfect life that we're aiming for or living. So what does it look like to you to be living a truly rich and prosperous life?
That's such a great question. And I think for me, like it changes a lot too. But the big thing is like having my family around me and, being surrounded by like-minded people. And
Yeah.
it's the encouragement in it's been, me supporting others, others supporting me. And, you know, yeah, just being surrounded by family. That's my key thing is like having
Mm.
my family around me, and all the loved ones. And we could holiday together, you know I just want to be able to share knowledge with people all around the world and help them live their best life.
Mm.
And then yeah, just be surrounded by incredible uplifting people, because I think that when you've got your tribe, it your life is just incredible. It just takes it to a whole new level because they get you, they support you, they encourage you, and then you can give that tenfold to them as well.
Yeah. I'm intrigued because your journey to getting where you have hasn't involved a coach and a tribe quite as much as my experience has been, and for many others. So it's a unique story in the space that I've been in. Tell us a little bit about your thinking and how you move through the various challenges that come up. Do you have people that are not? I mean, maybe it's just family, but people that are not necessarily in the entrepreneurial space, but a support to you, or how have you done that?
Good question. Look, I'm very fortunate that my parents are very supportive,
Yeah.
and they, I've, said to them like this wild idea of what I wanted to do, and they're like, go for it, go and do what you want to do because you've been through so much, you
Mm.
deserve happiness. So who are they to take that away? So they've been very, very supportive. But the other part, like I have had coaches in the past with it, but I've also found a tribe, and these are, men and women that literally have a vision for themselves, and we talk about it and we share it and we help and encourage each
Yeah.
other. And I think that's what has been key for me is
Yeah.
having that tribe where I can go, all right, I'm feeling like crap today. What do I need to do? Or this hasn't worked. How is it? Or I've had this great win. Let's come and celebrate.
Yeah.
So, having that has then allowed me to utilize their skills and knowledge and their experiences as well. And I make an assumption that my experience and, that they've been able to utilize that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I just feel that having a tribe of people on a like-minded journey that are going to pull you up when those conversations
Mm,
are, I don't know if I can do this, come up, or when things aren't working so well. We all do launch projects that don't work or whatever it is.
mm.
Having that tribe of people that just keep pulling you forward, I just think is so critical.
It really is. And
Mm.
it, look, my son, he's like, oh, I don't even know who you are. He said this to me a few years ago. I don't know who you are anymore, mum. And I'm like going, how wonderful is that you get to know me,
Yeah.
now, and we get to, explore different things and, find out more about each other because, he was so used to me just being in the corporate world.
Yeah.
So being an entrepreneur and actually putting yourself out there
Mm.
is hard too. So it's also, this tribe has also helped me educate friends and family who may not know what it's like because they're still in the corporate world or they've never, had a business themselves. So they're unsure of what the journey I'm actually going through as well.
Mm. What do you think is a great starting place? I mean, it may be people in the corporate space sitting thinking of joining the entrepreneurial world, or it may be, mums that have got some time now and think that they'd love to
Mm.
start a business. What do you think some great starting spots are?
Honestly, I think the question you need to ask is why? Why do you want to do what you're going to do?
Mhm.
So, with every business that you have, come back to that why.
Yeah.
And it's finding out like why do you want to help and serve people? What is the
Yeah.
reason behind that? Or why do you want to cook, bake these cakes or all these different sort of thing. Find out that why, because that
Mhm.
why is going to help propel everything.
Yep.
And if you know that why, then it helps you get motivated. It helps you go, okay, well, this is why I want to help this person. This is the type of people I want to help. Okay, this is the product that could actually help them. This is, all these different things. So that's the why is the first thing that people need to identify, first of all.
Yeah. I think it's really, the reason behind doing this series is really to give people insights on what it looks like to take control of your future. And in saying that, I mean not being reliant on a boss that can sack you or on that paycheck, but really being able to take control of it for yourself. And the prosperity, which is, it's prosperity. I use prosperity more than wealth because it's about more than that. It's our health and happiness as well. And the freedom to make choices and pivot, in this entrepreneurial world. Like I said, I started in, naturopathy and functional nutrition, which I thought was going to be my forever career. That was the academia that I poured money into for my learnings and so on. But then, after doing my first series, I surveyed my audience, my first audience of like 2,500 women, and like 80% of them were interested in my process of doing vision boards. It was like, oh, I can teach that. That's actually really easy. I never even thought, I didn't go to university to learn how to teach vision boards. Can I really do this? Am I qualified? These kind of looking around, trying to get somebody to give me permission to do it. And then I was like, well, they're asking for it and I know how to do it. So I just did it and it was wildly successful. People got amazing results. And so it is just that the freedom to go, actually, this is something that I can offer. And to be able to do it. And I think, even my mum was like, are you qualified to be doing what you're doing? It's that generation, which I think we've all grown up with, that it's like, where's the piece of paper that says you're allowed to talk about this?
Yes, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear with that. Yep.
Yeah. So it is. And I think that's the beauty of this space is that we can do that. And then, like now I teach people how to do interviews and interview series because I've discovered something that I'm naturally good at. And so I can support other people with it. And so there's so many different potential possibilities. It's limitless, this knowledge industry that we're now in, where we get to pass on skills that we've learned through our journey to now, whatever that journey has been, whether it's, you could likely speak to people about negotiating divorces. How, who did you need to be? What resources did you find? What mistakes did you make? So I think the people tuning in, if they can hear those steps, they can go, well, maybe there is something here. Maybe there's something for me. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing your story and the courage and the vulnerability. It is an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And I think what you said is so key because as we go through life, we're always going to have different experiences. We're going to have things that happen. But as we learn from it, that our own knowledge base increases, and you don't always have to have a piece of paper to say that you're qualified in it because you've experienced it.
Yep.
And I always say, with my coaching, I said, well, yes, I have a certificate in life coaching and there's no real accreditation in life coaching, but I've gone through this, this, and this. So if you want to learn from somebody who's done it, then I'm the person for you.
Yeah.
If you want textbook, then you can go somewhere else with it, because life experiences has a value. And I think everybody needs to not underestimate their own value for what they've experienced in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just think it's, I think about it in terms of sitting, my audience is all women, but sitting at the feet of women, once upon a time, we sat at the feet of our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers in order to learn these life lessons. And just through the nature of the way that society is now, many of us are living on different continents than our parents, let alone our aunts and extended family. So we get to just reach back and support the women around us, because we're just so much stronger when we pitch in and pass on the knowledge that we've learned on our life journey.
Yeah,
I know that
absolutely.
you have a beautiful gift for our audience. Did you want to take a minute just to tell them what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Like as I said to you, core values. Look, it really was the turning point for me, knowing that was going to be my foundation to change my life. So what we've developed is an amazing quiz that you can go ahead and take. It's a little bit of fun, but it also helps you find out just one of your core values and gets you thinking about that. So
Yeah.
you can come over onto our website, and you can actually take the quiz and find out what one of your core values are.
Yeah, perfect. So, as a final question, when you look at a woman and say, "Oh my goodness, she's a phenomenal woman," what are you seeing?
Oh, somebody who embraces all that she is, and that is accepting herself for flaws and all, and
Yeah.
just really is, steps into her power.
Mhm.
And, it's how she stands, it's how she talks, it's how she, negotiates life with, this grace. But it's then knowing that she's learning from it all and then helping others.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Have you got somebody in mind, particularly when you say that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of women that I really do admire, and Oprah Winfrey is one of them, because I
Yes.
believe that with what she has done with her career, but also the
Amazing.
things that she's experienced in life, that she's able to use that and be able to gift so many other people as well.
Mm.
So I really believe that, she is one of them. And there's just some personal people in my life as well that
Yeah.
I see, and my mum's one of them, and just things that she's experienced, but the way that she's been able to impart her wisdom,
Yeah.
to myself, to the grandchildren as well. Not to clone them as her, but to sort of say, this is what I've learned, and it's up to you
Mm.
to now embrace your life. And, you need to make your own mistakes so you can learn from them as well.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much for being with us. It's just been such an insightful conversation, and I'm really grateful to you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.